Hey folks, welcome to Snowpal's Polyglot Software Development Podcast. Today's podcast is as impromptu as it can possibly be. I was looking for someone to have a conversation with about iOS, the latest release, and one of the features of that release. And thanks to Ryan Soosayraj was generous to accept that, see that message on LinkedIn, and said sure we can have a chat about it. So Ryan, thank you so much. I'm going to give a brief introduction about you, and then you can probably introduce yourself to our audience, and then we can start rolling. So Ryan Soosayraj is a seasoned product management leader with 15 years of experience in B2B, SaaS, and B2C markets. Ryan specializes in bridging strategy and execution, guiding teams to optimize roadmaps and achieve scalable growth. Currently, Ryan helps companies refine product strategies and build high performing teams through his services. Ryan, thanks for taking time to chat. Before we get go to the topic, if you could just introduce yourself to our audience, that would be great. Yeah.
Sure, Krish. Thanks again. You said it was a generous offer for me to accept it. It's nerve-wracking in doing something this spontaneous, but it's also fun, right? That's part of the joy of it. It is called Image Playground, after all. My name is Ryan Soosayraj. As Krish, you very eloquently introduced me. Um, I'm out of London, UK, and I've spent the better part of the last 20 years in some form of product management. The last sort of 15 in product management leadership. Um, love building teams, building products, the thing that all of us loved in this craft. Left sort of typical, I suppose, as the American audience might call it, W2 employment back in May. And I've started my own gig in August, trying to help other folks like myself 15 years ago, trying to see how I might help people navigate. At first, the first thing I'm trying to putting out there is how to navigate this whole disappointment, which are roadmaps, and how we always want it to be something, and it's never really that. Starting off with that, but thanks, Krish.
Ryan, thanks for the introduction. I'm going to have to bring you back to, you are the ideal candidate for, for me to talk about many different things, and product management being one of them. We've had a
Amazing.
lot of conversations over the last many months, and since you've now become an entrepreneur, congratulations and best
Thank you.
wishes. We've had as a startup founder myself, I've had a lot of chat with founders recently
Hmm.
about the challenges of running a business. So I think that's a topic we could
Sure.
talk about, but that's for
Yeah.
another day. And I'm more than happy, let me know, and we'd love to have
Be
you
a
on the
pleasure.
podcast.
Thank you.
Today's podcast is late in the evening for you on Sunday before you start your week. We're just going to talk about something fun, less technical, at least directly so. But two engineers talking, it always tends to become sometimes more technical than you want for it to be.
Yeah.
But the hope here is to keep it as fun as possible. And I know it's late, and if you have to get to kids and stuff, let me know. We can wrap this up.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
I'm gonna let's keep going till you're like, Krish, I need to go. Right? I can
Got it.
keep going as long as we could do. So without
Great.
further ado, I'm going to do a screen share.
Yep.
And before we go into we're going to talk about Image Playground. It's the latest release. Before we actually go into the app, we want to dig deeper, play with it, and sort of get our feet wet. Any high level thoughts, your initial reactions, and even before I go to the initial reaction, Ryan, are you? I don't want to spill the beans on my side. Are you like an Apple fanboy? Because it makes a difference. Are you an Apple
Yeah.
fanboy
Uh,
using it, or are you like a very unbiased, neutral person using Playground?
It's a bit of both. I've managed to kind of, well, I suppose anyone would say this who's an actual fanboy, but I am a fanboy in the sense that I've always, for a long time, I've liked how Apple approaches their products. I like their considered, careful thought into their experiences. Um, but that is not to say that Android or the other platforms are short. It's just there was a point when I would say but completely biased, that Apple was far ahead of the others. But I think that's not been the case in the last sort of 7, 8 years, at least in my opinion. It's a matter of preference, right? Do you like a brown dog or a black dog, right? You love
Okay.
them both. It's a preference. So yeah,
So that answer was Ryan as a product management leader. Now I'm going to
yeah,
ask the same question to Ryan as just a dude, right?
yeah.
So let me rephrase the question. If Apple sold something new and you absolutely had no foreseeable need for that particular product,
Yep.
would you still show up at the store on day one to buy that?
Not to buy it. Uh, Definitely to see what the fuss was about. I think I would, from an Apple product, my default starting point is there's something here, I need to work out what it is. For a lot of other products, my default starting point is, here we go again. Tell me why it's good,
Okay, so
right?
you're at a more fair place than I might be, right?
Hmm.
So I'm in that category to a large extent, but I find the way to get unbiased after I use it.
Okay.
For instance, just as an example, we bought Vision Pro on day one,
I was going to say.
returned it on day one as well, because
Right.
if
Okay.
it was like putting a brick on the head, right? So I'm
Yeah.
reasonably fair. So I think
Hmm.
that gives folks the introduction, so they know where the
Super.
two of us are coming
Yep.
from, right?
Yep.
Now we're going to get into the actual product itself. So let
Okay.
me do a screen share here. And when I do this, right, I'm not going to be seeing you. So hopefully, tell me if I have to move things
Sure.
around and stuff
Got it.
like that. Yeah,
Yep.
So I'm going to just do a screen share here. I'm going to unlock my phone, go to playground. Okay. And then I'm going to do a screen share. Now you tell me,
I can see the logo.
okay. Can you see the phone now?
Yes, I can see your logo in the background and the image playground images on the left side of the screen.
Perfect, right? And so so anytime during this podcast, if that goes out of
I'll let you know.
vision, just let me know, please,
Sure.
because I'm not the way the screen is. I'm not looking at you right now.
Got it. No problem. I understand. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. So before we go, okay, Image Playground is the app, but let me start here, right? So folks actually, okay, no, it's called Image Playground, I believe, but the name shows up as only Playground when you go here. Maybe it's just too many words for them to have it. Your initial reactions.
Initial reaction. I mean, I'd seen it in the keynote and stuff. Initial reaction I thought was it's playful, right? And that is in a positive note. The moment you launch it at time zero before you have any images, there's that little blob in the center, the orb that's kind of doing its thing. And in my opinion, very atypical professional colors, which is it wasn't the silvers and the blacks and the grays. It was purple and blue and green. It was quite fun. So initial reaction was that. At the same time, it didn't quite know, well, what next, right? I kind of seen the
Yeah.
demo, but kind of go, well, because there were lots of sort of things asking for my input. I believe there was the description thing in the bottom where you could type something in. There was also the Apple Intelligence logo, which you could tap on. There was also a choose person. There was also a choose picture. So a little bit kind of like, not confusing, but kind of going, oh, okay, what
Yep, no,
next,
got it,
right?
right? So,
Yeah.
and you almost have to say Raj or when you're. I'm just going to wait for you to pause because I don't know when you're done. So I'm just going to wait for the 2 seconds and then I'll
Sure.
talk, right? So this
Sure.
is awkward because it's kind of tricky to share the phone, and typically I could do iPhone mirroring, but then I cannot hold it and it makes a different experience. And there's not iPhone mirroring works all right,
Yeah.
but
What
not
are you using
perfectly
at the
well.
moment, Krish? How are you doing this?
I'm
Huh?
doing this using QuickTime. Yeah, I'm just using QuickTime and
Right.
doing the
Okay.
share here,
Yeah.
right? So I can hold the phone on my hand.
Yeah.
iPhone mirroring works great, but it just doesn't work well in terms of scrolls and whatnot, right?
Right.
So
Okay.
let me add to your initial reaction. I felt quite the same as well. I was like, you know what? Yeah, when my son showed it to me, I'm like, okay, let me check this out. And it's just to draw a parallel. I don't know if you know an Indian composer called A.R. Rahman.
Of
Ryan,
course.
it's yeah, okay, my
Absolutely.
favorite composer.
Huge fan. Yeah.
Yeah, me too, right? And every
Yeah.
time there's a release, we give it all the respect and hopefully as much as it deserves, but as much as we can possibly do. We listen to it in a quiet room, in a good setting, no other
Yeah.
distractions, and it's actually something like it's not no different to me than an Apple release, right? And in fact, the Apple release happens more often than a Rahman release, so sometimes I have to give a Rahman release a little bit more respect.
Yeah.
But that kind of excitement is there. But then after you hear the song with Rahman, it's like peeling onions layers, so it takes a while to
Yeah.
get used to it
Yeah.
and digest it. But your initial reaction still matters, right? Similarly with this app, like with the Vision Pro, it completely fell flat as an example. Put that on the head, I'm like, oh my god, this thing is like super heavy. Please take it out of my head with the
That's super
initial
interesting,
reaction.
Krish, because just on that parallel, right? When I
Yeah.
tried the Vision Pro, I was blown away within a minute, right? It was completely
Okay.
opposite, right? I didn't know why on earth I would use it. I didn't think I would. I didn't think I loved it. It was just technology for technology's sake. I thought, how have they
But
done this?
that is interesting. So your initial reaction when you wore that thing, Ryan, was not like, please remove this. Was more
No,
like, hey, let me find out more about
exactly.
this.
I actually went in extremely skeptical about it, right? But I gave it that because the thing, because it was the Apple branding. I thought these guys got something. I need to work out what it is. And I
You know
given
what?
that,
We are supposed to talk about Image Playground, but I'm so sorry. I cannot go to this because my mind is now distracted. Tell me something. Be
yeah,
very honest with me, right?
sure.
When you put it on your head, the weight of the device, how did it not bother you?
I think it bothered me more towards the end, right? Now, because it's frame of mind, right? I was not going in there to evaluate whether I would buy or use it. I think if I went in with that frame of mind, the first thing would have been not even the way it would have been that super annoying this thing on the side, right? That little thing that goes to the battery, right?
Right,
But because I was going in to say, why is this apparently so different from all the other VR goggles out there? What's the big deal about this? And why the hell is it so expensive apart from it being an Apple thing, right? Like,
right.
why is it so? What's the difference? And I was going in from a geeky sort of, how is this different? And when I put it on, very quickly I felt how it was different.
Well,
Uh,
this is great because, I'm going to pause you there because we're going to talk about something else. But the thing is, it's interesting because now for people watching or listening to this, depending on which medium they
yeah.
consume, we publish our podcast in several different on platforms. But for
Mm.
this one, I think people will have to watch it because this is very going to be quite visual, right? You can
Yeah,
hear it, but I
exactly.
think
Right.
it is going to be fairly visual. Okay, so this gives I think it's a fair perspective. I don't think, the two of us have had different opinions about Vision Pro, which gives a very broader perspective about
Yeah.
Image Playground. But let me add to what you said there about the playground. I was very excited too. When I saw this, the
Mm.
colors, I mean, you articulated this a whole lot better than I could possibly ever do. But
Mm.
but the gist of it is the colors, and it was very, I don't know, it was kind of, I don't know whether I should say real, right? I mean, there is a sense of
It's
cartoonish feel to it, but yet it was very, very nice and
yeah,
colorful, if that means
yeah,
something.
absolutely, Christian. I think I've seen some feedback initially from people on social media saying, "Oh, it's really hard to get photorealistic images." I think that's the point because when I put, obviously, you tried first with your own face, and then when you're brave enough, you put your kid's face in, and all of a sudden, I started going, "Hang on, that actually looks like me." And the same, I mean, look at that one, right? That is, I mean, I'm looking at you now next to it. You can't see me, but I can see you next to it, and it's you, right? And the reason I think that's the beauty of it is I've always found avatars to be, which is what I kind of see this if you're using someone's face, is the way Image Playground have done it. They've made it fun enough, but also realistic enough that you can use it so that people can identify this is Krish, this is Ryan, I know who this is, and yet you're kind of keeping your actual face private,
Absolutely, right?
right?
Absolutely.
Because prior to this, what would you have done? It would either be a realistic photo of yourself or a picture of a cat named Krish, right? And and that's not you, right?
you know
Um,
you hit that spot on there because as we talk more about this, okay, before we dig, I was just gonna, let's talk the high level and then we can go into the specifics of
sure.
this, right? So that I couldn't agree more with what you said because when I picked this up, I'm like, you know what, I will go to what things I feel like, what are some changes that hopefully we'll see in the near future, but the gist is it somehow got the essence of the character of the face is what I
Correct.
could tell. I was like, you know what, sure, it's different, it shows me a whole lot younger, my skin is not wrinkled here and all that stuff, I get that, but it captured the essence. It's like when you go to the movie and you come back, all of us have different opinions of a movie that we just watched and we are walking out of the
Absolutely.
theater. But
Mm.
if all of us share the same essence of Inception or the same essence of Interstellar,
Hmm.
then you know what, there is a conversation to be had, as opposed to sometimes you get out of a movie and you're like, you have no idea because
Yeah.
sometimes the director or the creator probably had no idea themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm taking
Yeah.
an example of Inception where you're talking one of the most brilliant creators out there
Yeah.
versus some other movie that could be different. So yes, you know what, the essence of what it captured, it's spot on.
Yeah.
And I will say one more thing here, Ryan, is it when I took my son's photo and mine, and we have a lot of facial similarities.
Okay.
Uh, it's kind of funny because uh, here is one thing I want to say: the app kind of got us to thinking more. Maybe there are things about us that are more similar than we thought or less similar than we thought because it had an unbiased interpretation of our faces, right?
Absolutely.
It used the intelligence and had an unbiased interpretation. And then we see three different people in the family and we're like, oh my God, for
Yeah.
good or for better or for worse, we look very similar to each other,
One
right? I mean,
second. One second, Krish. Yes. You
sure.
okay? All right, give me a minute, okay? Yeah, no, I completely agree with you, and it's interesting because way back when I suppose they introduced neural nets in the iPhones, this is at least 6 years ago now that I remember this example when I started committing all my photos into iCloud and photos on my phone. Before that, it used to be Dropbox and a variety of other places. But when I went all in, I started realizing something. Right, my son, who was 2 years old at that point, bigger pardon, 4 years old at that point, was something really interesting. If I put his name in my photo search, it would show his photos because I tagged him before. But after a while, I could type in, let's assume his name was John. I could say
Right.
John aged 4, which was his current age. But if I suddenly went John as a baby, it identified that this child, who I had never tagged as John before, is that same child as a baby. It understood the inference as the infant phase had now evolved into the grown up phase.
Amazing.
And I actually think, this is again, probably another topic. I actually think Apple is very smart at doing this to introduce extremely powerful front facing cameras. They introduce portrait cameras. They do all these little things because they're trying to get more image data, facial features in to do things like they're doing, like Image Playground. The other bit I wanted to mention very quickly is about the cartoony yet you had a really nice way of saying it. Kind of, you could still see the essence of the person's face, right? Now out
Absolutely.
here in London City, and I'm sure they have the city, I'm definitely sure they have it in places around the world. You get these caricature artists, right? So you sit down and they draw this caricatures, and I've always been
I
blown
love
away,
them.
right?
I pay $10 every time I go to New York City. Yeah, please keep going.
I
Yeah.
get blown away by how does that look completely like me and the same thing completely not. Like I know it's me, but yet everything looks more exaggerated. And the last point I want to make on this before we can I'll pause is I think the ultimate test in how at least for me, how delightful something is or how effective something is when it's seen through unbiased eyes, like you said. And how much more unbiased should you get than a child, right? Uh,
Absolutely.
and so I've got a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old. So let's park the 6-year-old for a minute because he thinks he's far, he's, he thinks he's a 25-year-old. Now, the 4-year-old, very innocent. When I generated images of the whole family, like I can see you've done as well, right?
Right.
And I showed them to her. She recognized each and every one as the people they were,
Wow.
right?
Amazing. And this is the
And
4-year-old.
the 4-year-old, and it wasn't, oh, is that, it's grandma, grandpa. It was every one of them. There were 9 of them, and she picked and she said the names for every one of them. And that was truly impressive because I could tell it, but I knew what it was trying to do, right? My brain's filling in the delta between this is an app, it's trying to do something, it's not imperfect, his ears don't look like that. She doesn't know any of that. She just
Wow.
recognized it straight away. And I thought,
That's a
yeah,
beautiful, beautiful. Ryan, by the way, you're still able to see the
I
phone, right?
no, the phone went away the moment I started that last sentence.
Uh-oh.
It's the
Okay.
both of
What?
us.
Okay. Let me make
Yeah.
sure. I'm still sharing. That is weird. Maybe
Let me
the.
see. Have I moved something? No.
Okay. Is it back there?
It is. It's back now. It's back. Correct. I
Okay,
should have
please.
told
Yeah.
you when it's. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no worries. Yeah, because I think my script, because I was holding the phone, so my machine went to sleep. Probably that's what happened. It stopped sharing.
Yeah.
But you can see it now, right?
I can. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, you know what? I think going back to what you said, this is great. The 4-year-old, a
Mm-hmm.
child being able to tell, which tells us that it captured the essence. And before we go into playing with it, I want to say one more thing, right?
Sure.
With all the talk of AI, which, it's amazing, and we're getting into 2025 and there's going to be a lot more. When you talk NVIDIA and GPUs and Micron technology or
Mm-hmm.
Broadcom, it resonates with folks who are in the industry. But if people outside the industry, probably not so much, right?
Yeah.
To me, the way I look at it is Apple is, being sort of in the sidelines because they tried the Apple Card, didn't go anywhere. The Vision Pro, I'm not going to put my money on it. So I
Yeah.
feel like they were a bit distracted, in my opinion. But
Mm-hmm.
they've sort of, they have this way to, to launch something that is super exciting. And
Yeah.
you have, I don't know how many million people, probably 2 billion people or 2 billion devices out there in the world. Take my
Yeah.
number with a grain of salt. Now you're putting AI in the hands of real end users who do not have to know about GPUs and
Correct.
NVIDIA and all of these other companies, but just are able to use AI in a real fun manner on a
Hmm.
daily basis with friends and family, which is a remarkably different thing. Like coming to B2C, I have a feeling Apple, in my opinion, is one of the first companies has taken AI and put that on the hands of the B2C consumer, right? Not so much
Hmm.
the B2B consumer with dealing with data like Meta does, or dealing with things like Google does, for instance. I
Yeah.
don't know. Before we go into it, what are your thoughts on that?
I couldn't agree more, Krish. I think when Apple kind of, they were largely late to the game of talking about AI. And this is pure product management hat on now. I kind of despise the word AI because I think it's overused as a thing. It's being used. It can go from something really beautiful and intelligent, like we're seeing on screen, or it can just be a very complex if-else statement. Oh, it's AI, right? However, I think when Apple came up with the keynote, and a lot of folks were underwhelmed initially, I think that was the beauty of it because they had, I don't want to say demoted, but I certainly had kind of, I will say demoted that thought of AI or LLMs or neural nets or whatever it is to the how. They didn't care, like, don't worry about how it's done. This is the value it's giving you, right? Remember in the keynote, there was, when's mom come? When do I pick mom up?
Right.
And it went through the thing, and that was the value of it. Now, it's not as sexy to a lot of folks, the tech geeks, the people in the know, but for most of the people who use these things, that's fantastic, right? So I actually like that approach. Um, my rhetorical, so it's not really a question. Well, it is a question, not to you, but just in general, is what's Apple's, why are they doing it? This is the part I don't get, right? Like, I feel like there's always something they're up to in a very good way, which is I get them making it easier to access, to work through your notifications, the summarization. I find that extremely powerful. When in some cases Siri has been elevated a little bit, I get that's really powerful. But I still get something like Image Playground. I'm like, yeah, it's fun, but what's the end game? Like, why are they doing that, right? So
You know
again, I
what?
go,
Let me take a
yeah,
stab. Let me take a stab at
go on,
answering the
go
question.
on,
I don't know if I have an answer, but I'm going to take a stab at it, right?
yeah,
Uh, you know, the way I see it is, I speak to it as a really, as a startup, which is
mm,
quite the opposite of, where Apple's at the largest company in the world, right? But I still, the perspective there, I can draw some similarities, if you will, which is you release, when you probably can speak to a lot more than I could, but let me take a stab at it. As a
mm,
product manager, sometimes you come up with a curated list of features that your team can implement in a given time frame, and you want to get it out the door, right? Then there's a broader list in the roadmap that you alluded
mm,
to at the top of the call, and then you see what can be done the next week, the next month, the next sprint, and yada yada yada. But you can never tell what resonates with the audience, so you have to have a broader set of features, and then see, just see which ones people end up picking and interacting and engaging with.
yeah,
Apple, let me go to this iMessage, and you still see my screen, right?
I do, yes, yep,
Okay. Still see my screen. So let me go past this. So let me go to what was that? Was it not the digital touch? But let me type this message. Say hello world, right?
yeah,
And then go to one of the things that Apple did. So I could be wrong
yeah.
here, but based on what my son's telling me, this feature is 8 years old. I think it's eight
It's,
years old, and I think in the last 8 years they have not made any changes whatsoever
I
to
would
this feature.
think that's about right. I think, yeah,
So I don't know how many people use it. I use the confetti and I use a couple of things here and there, but not all the time, which means this is one of those features which they tried. It's like one of those, not like the touch bar, because the touch bar was like a disaster, right? Nobody liked it on the machine.
yeah,
This
yeah.
one, like, let me ask you this question. Do
Mm.
you do you use this feature? And if so, how frequently do you use this
Oh,
feature?
very, very rarely. It's the confetti, it's the balloons. Sometimes it's invisible ink for a bit of fun. But honestly, like,
Not more than that, right?
yeah, if they took it away, I wouldn't pay 5 cents to get it back. Like,
Okay. So that's one of those features. So let
yeah,
me ask you this other one here, which is if I turn my phone around, I don't know if this is going to work. Okay, it looks
yeah,
this
landscape.
particular writing, like, how frequently do you use this?
Do you know what the answer to that is, Krish? This is the first time I've known you could do that. And that's quite embarrassing for me because I always feel like, no, if I poked around these things a lot, I didn't know you could do that.
Okay, so I use this uh reasonably frequent. I like to, I love drawing, but I don't know how to draw. I'm terrible at
Right?
it. but this is, me trying to do or send messages and things of that nature, right? So this is a feature that maybe some of us use, some of us don't, and like you mentioned, people probably don't even care, right? So
Mm.
my answer to the question, what I'm trying to say in a long-winded way, Ryan, is it they have to throw a number of features out there and see which one sticks, and then sort of
Sure.
make improvements. And I feel like this one, and I know, let me get into this, like, let me just so people are like, watching this and impatient, like, can you guys at least show the screen? Let's take an image. I'm going to answer
Yep.
the question in a long minute, but let's take an image and play with it. So this is the first screen, right? First
Yep.
screen. You shared your initial thoughts. Any further before I go click plus and add an image? Any thoughts on this initial screen?
No, I think it does feel a bit atypical of Apple. That sentence, describe an image or add a suggestion from the list, seems very developery, technically, as opposed to like what do you mean describe an image? That's not a normal thing that a human is asked to do. Describe an image. I think they could have been softer, like tell us what you'd like to see,
I
or
think that's a
pick.
I think that's a
Yeah.
great point, because it's not just for the non-technical people. Even as somebody who's been building software for like 20 years,
Mm,
when it said describe an image, I'll tell you what my confusion, a tiny bit of confusion was, and I think you kind of hit the nail in the
mm,
coffin there. Uh, what I'm going to say is, let me add this before I say that. So I'm going to click plus here. I'm
yep.
going to, so this is the initial, the whatever the screens are, right?
Yep.
So we have two styles to choose from: illustration and animation. I'm going to just pick animation. All of them that I shared, I think, on that page basically was animation. I haven't
Hmm.
actually had anything saved for illustration. So I'm going to choose a photo from this list. I'm going to go to all. I'm going to go and I'm going to pick. One of the things is you need to pick a photo. Let's say I picked one. Let me go pick one where it actually does not work, right? Let me pick one.
Mm.
Because the face has to be pretty close
Yeah.
to the screen, right? That's one thing I noticed, that even if it's like further out, it simply doesn't work. So let me go pick this photo. Oh, you see, it says try a photo with the face more in view,
Oh,
right?
okay. Okay.
So that was a little bit painful, because every
Mm.
time I go, I'm like, okay, this photo doesn't work. Let me delete this, and I get on, I go back here. Now what happens is it goes to the top of this list, which is a
Ugh.
different problem. I think
Yeah.
this probably needs to be a little bit better, because I have to scroll through 1,000 photos and I get to a certain point and it doesn't like that photo. And I come back to the screen. I now have to scroll all the way back down to
Sure.
the photo and have no indication as to where that photo is, right?
Yep.
That
Yep.
was a little bit painful. But otherwise, let's say I go pick a photo with my wife and I in here.
But it's
So
also, again, this is me being very, very pedantic, right? The with your face more in view, like what does that mean? That photo you put on only had your face in it, right? Arguably, that was the only thing in view. If it wants it to be closer, either say closer or just zoom in. These pictures are high resolution enough. Just do it.
yeah, you know what? The language, I think you make. So the thing is, of the couple of things we've seen so far, the language has been sort of very developery, which is very different from. You don't expect that from Apple, right? I mean, it's
Yeah.
not it's not Apple's
I suppose it's
character.
in beta. That's what they'll say. Let's see, right? But
Yeah,
also that
okay.
first list. Remember, it said pick a suggestion. Is the thing said pick a suggestion from a list. There is no list. For me, a list is a list, right?
Right.
But
No,
again, this is
yeah,
me being really kind of
no,
like
I see you there. I mean, it's all right, right? We're paying thousand
horizontal isn't
dollars,
a list. Yeah.
$1,300 for a phone, being expecting everything and more than what it provides. I think
Yeah.
it's perfectly justifiable, right? Because you're
Yeah.
paying top dollars for these devices. So I picked. The other thing is I picked my wife and I, and then it picks the face that's more prominent, and
Hmm.
there is no way to pick the other
Ah.
face. It
All
You can't
right.
just, yeah, you cannot pick the other face, which is a bit more painful. Right now I go here. Now I have to
Then you got
scroll
to crop
back to,
yourself out if you
yeah,
wanted to do that. And
I have to go back all the way here.
all
And let's say
right.
I go back, and now it's going to pick, if it even likes it. Oh, this time
Ah.
it picked the other person. So I would like for this section here at the top to be
Mm.
able to say, you know what, can you actually pick the other phase, or whatnot, right? So
Or
that's
both.
one thing. Or actually, both is awesome. Right now, I
Mm.
don't think they have support for group. I think it's all independent single
Individual.
faces, right?
Mm.
Individual
Mm.
faces, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So now it picked my wife. Now I go here. Now what I tried to do was I said, you know what, uh, make her. I don't know what. I should
Be
have picked
very
my foot.
careful about what you
What?
say
Yeah.
next. Your
You
wife
know
is
what?
watching
Yeah.
this.
You know what? You know what? I'm going to pick my face here. It's actually a whole lot easier to mess around with that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to go to Krish. I guess it. Oh no, I have to go to
I think it's under
all.
the yeah.
Yep, and then I go to Krish. Okay, let me go to perfect. Right. Okay, so it's going to do this.
Mm,
Okay, now uh, sometimes it gets it all right, sometimes not so much. It just depends on the photo and everything. But let's say I go with this. Now
yeah.
I try to say, make me a bit older, and I hit
Mm,
enter.
mm,
Right. So it was more like I was expecting a chat GPT sort of ish interaction.
yeah.
And I know Apple uses chat GPT. And I don't know how much of it they use for this.
Yeah.
Probably they do. But that's not there yet, right? I'm expecting, I don't know if it did anything at all. I don't
Yeah.
believe it
Well,
did
you definitely
anything.
don't look older, right? It's
Right? Yeah. So now when I did that, I got rid of it. So okay, let me go
I
back
tried
there. Yeah. What are we saying?
I, I noticed I had a different thing as well, which I use an image of myself, which was very flattering how it generated it, and I actually said, "Make me fatter," because it
Okay.
became far too polished, and it kind of thought about it and then didn't do anything, right? And I don't know whether it was being trying to be all proper. Well, we don't accept the word fatter, or I didn't try other variations, um, but it was
To be honest with you, right? When when the first image of mine I picked, I was disappointed because I was looking to see like a DiCaprio or a Brad Pitt in there, and then I realized it's not Apple's fault, right? It's not Apple's fault. It cannot be. It can only be creative to a certain extent, right? It has to be honest
It
to what
isn't
it's doing.
Magic Playground. It's
Yeah, it's not a magic playground. You got that
yeah,
right.
yeah.
I was expecting you to say, yeah, you look a bit like Brad Pitt, Krish. It should have shown it to you. That was the answer I was expecting,
Ah, but you
right?
see, Krish, but that's because you're assuming I think Brad Pitt is worth looking at. You see,
The definition, right?
that was a good
Okay.
save, wasn't it? That was a good save.
Yeah, that is a good say. Okay, so
Yeah,
the thing I noticed is it gives you a few different options, and I always found that one of them is much closer to how you see yourself than the other
exactly.
ones, right?
Yeah, I completely agree. And I always found it was the one that one, the one that looks a bit closer. They
This
seem
one?
to get yeah, it's the one that has that sort of aspect ratio. Seems to be the one that is a bit closer.
Yeah,
Um,
I actually I was. It's funny because I was gonna pick that one as well, and now I'm gonna pick. I don't know. I'm gonna pick fantasy. Maybe let's see what does fantasy do. Okay, that was fantasy, but let's say I go here. I click that, remove fantasy, and I want to add maybe an astronaut. While Ryan's there, I'm going to continue talking here. So these are, you can pick costumes, you can pick accessories, you can pick places, uh, themes. I think those are the four categories: themes, costumes, accessories, and places. I'm actually going to get rid of that one because I like the places better. I'm going to pick space. And Ryan, whenever you're back, just let me know. Okay. So this is places, and let's see if we can add something else here. There's a hard hat. Okay, that's me with the hard hat. No, I don't like the hard hat. You're back. Okay. No, I was just messing around with this. I'm going to remove the hard hat. I just picked like space. I was just
hmm,
saying there's like four categories: places, accessories, costumes, and themes. And this list is like 10 for now. I have to believe that list is going to increase, and then you get in this dicey situation. Sometimes it's one too many, or otherwise it's one too few, right? So
yeah.
in this of these four categories, which one resonated the most with you? Themes, costumes, accessories, and places.
Um, I think I tried accessories the most, more because I was trying to see how realistic it could be. Because in my context, sometimes I use glasses, sometimes I don't. I wanted to see how it could look. Sometimes with the cap, sometimes I'm not. I haven't tried too many of the others. I mean, I've dabbled, I've kind of tapped on it. It was a bit
Okay.
annoying sometimes when I'd found a face that I liked, like this one, and then I would choose one of the things in the list, and it would then change the face. And I'm like, hang on, I want to pin the face and change the background,
And then
right?
change the background. I see what you mean.
Unless it was
Yeah.
like an astronaut and you're trying to put a helmet on me, fair enough, right? That I get. You've got to affect my face as well. But um, well,
Okay,
one
so
thing. I'll let you carry
yep.
on. Go ahead.
No. Sorry, go for
I
it.
was going to say one thing. I know it's one of the things I like about it is it's nice to play around and mess about and then save it, and then. But I've also realized in the last 24 hours uh, that it's, I wouldn't say integrated, it's accessible from a lot of other apps, which is nice, right? So whether it's messages or pages and things like that, it's quite nice. You're writing an article, you can put an image in. Um, but I wish it could be integrated deeper, even if it's simple things like I love, I didn't think I'd say this 5 years ago, but certainly now when I'm writing articles or messages, emojis make more of a presence. And I like the fact that now I type the word smile, knowing I'm going to pick the smile emoji. I type the word zap if I want to pick the lightning emoji. But I'm typing it and the autocomplete is suggesting the emoji. It would be great if it could do something like that. So as it just to kind of suggest, or even more straightforwardly in the latest version of iOS with the writing tools that you have, that
Right?
allows you to do that. It would be great if there was something in there, right? Just select the text and propose an image. Uh, that would be super. You see that a lot of other tools, I think GPT does it quite well in certain areas. Maybe that's what they're going to do because at the moment it feels like I create an image, I save it to my photo album. Maybe I'm going to use it. I think Christmas is probably going to be a season where people do a lot of that with elves and Santa hats and things. But it would be nice to kind of use it in other places. And the second point, I've just realized as you and I have been doing this, I have not tried it without a face.
Okay, that's a great. I'm gonna say something because I have a
No,
couple of
no, that's
comments
it.
there.
No,
Okay,
go on.
great thing. So let me save this. Just want to say a couple of things. What I did here was I added a bow tie. I said forest, and I had a mustache here. So
Yeah,
for some reason it didn't add the beard, but the mustache is there. So
yeah,
you're able to. I've noticed that if you used a lengthy sentence, it doesn't work. If you used one
right.
single words, it almost always has worked for me thus far. Just
Okay,
from what I've discovered
okay.
up until this point, right? So to me, that looks I can see myself there.
Mm-hmm.
There are certain things, uh,
Yep.
but the nice thing also is almost it always shows you. If I could speak for myself, it has always showed a better version of me, if you will.
I get what you
So
mean. Yeah.
Apple's like, you know what? Let me make Krish look better than he actually probably does. So he comes back to using the app, maybe make him a
Mm-hmm.
bit younger, maybe cooler, what for whatever that's worth.
Yep.
Because I'm like, it never presented an image that was like, this is not what I want to be looking
Yeah.
like, right?
And that's exactly
So
the reason because it's sort of not photorealistic. You can get away with that because it doesn't look
absolutely
like you're
right.
trying to portray yourself as someone you're not. It's a fun version of you, right? You're allowed to do
Absolutely
that.
right. That
Yeah.
makes sense, right? And then what I was going to also say was kind of maybe a little bit related is you can pick an existing image. I mean, sorry, a photo, and then you can mess with that. But what
Mm-hmm.
I noticed was, let me try this before I say it again because I tried it earlier and I don't think it actually did work. So let me pick me again, a generated image,
Mm.
and then if oh yeah, see the thing is, what
Oh.
I would like also is I want it'd be nice to
Huh.
have a starting point where, hey, you know what, I want to go with what you already gave me, right? It's a
Yeah. Yeah.
modified
Yeah.
image.
Yeah.
Start there and add some more adjustments and tweaks to it, but don't generate a new version of it. But here it generated a new version. But I want to say one thing is I picked images from currently this year, last year, 10 years ago, and 15 years ago, and even up like 25, 30 years ago. It is amazing, and I think you mentioned this earlier, so I'm just not this is
Mm-hmm.
not something new I'm saying. I'm just repeat what you said earlier. Is it was able to capture the essence of all of my faces over these
Yeah.
years, and there was this commonality, right? So this is an image that it generated of me today, and goes back many years. It made me younger, but if I took a younger face, let me
Yep.
save this one for a second, and I'll show you the younger face that it
And just while you're
generated,
doing that, Krish, that image is just generated, right?
right?
Does that look like you younger, or does that look like your son at all? I'm just
It
curious.
it's oh, it certainly does because I'm going to show
Wow.
it to you. It actually I actually took a younger image of me.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you know what? This might be
That's
a younger.
incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, This is younger
Wow.
image of my son, but there is also I think, I don't know if I have it here, but I took a younger image of me.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, this is a young. This is a young. This is. I took a photo when I was like 12 or 13 years old, and now this is a photo that is reverse engineered from me being in my 40s, right? So it's a
Right.
different.
Right.
But you can tell the
That's
similarity, which means,
remarkable, isn't it?
oh,
That
they
is.
they absolutely nailed this.
Mm.
And I can tell you there are certain. I don't know, even if it might sound like ridiculous self-proclamation, but there are certain products and services that Apple's released over the years, right?
Mm.
I've told my son, you know what, I love this and I don't care for this. And
Mm-hmm.
fast forward 5 years, some of them, almost all of them, the ones I've liked have become popular. So my, whether it's good
Got
or
it.
bad omen, I'm going to say that Vision Pro, my money is not there, right? My money
Okay.
is not there, right? This feature, my money is there on it
Yeah.
because. So going back to your earlier question is like, hey, when are people going to use this, right? I will tell you, since they launched it was like a day ago. I don't know when this came out, maybe a couple of days back or a day ago,
Mm.
right? Uh, my son's obviously the next generation. He's been socializing this with his friends. I've actually shared it with people my age.
Yeah.
Almost everyone seems to have a sense of excitement, and for people who are thinking, hey, you know what, it's a new thing, it's like a new movie or a new restaurant that opens in the neighborhood, everyone's going to be excited for a week or a few days,
Yeah.
and then the excitement dies and fades away, right? Yeah, I agree, but at the same time, I cannot think of the last time where a certain feature has resonated with audiences of multiple or different demographics.
I really agree.
uh, yeah, so there is maybe something in here that does it, right? So let me go back here. I know I showed some features. Anything else that I've missed out here? Like I know I click. Oh, maybe illustration. Before I go there, I want to
Yeah.
pause. Any other feature that you think photo has that I missed out on?
Nothing in the app that I am aware of. One thing I did notice today, and again, anyone listening, this might have been there for ages. It might not have anything to do with Image Playground. But I know that when you generate and you save an image that's been generated from Image Playground, like that one, right? Imagine that one, and then you saved it and you open it in preview, you can do a edit copy subject and it would automatically remove the background.
No, let me do that. Okay, let
Yeah,
me
so if you
save
saved it
this.
as an image,
Okay, now I save this as an
now
image.
open that,
Okay.
yeah, and on your Mac, don't think you can do it on your phone. If you open that saved image on your Mac,
Okay, like here.
yeah,
I Oh, you know what? I don't know if I can, because I'm on QuickTime, and to be
yeah,
honest, I've never. I just updated the OS,
nice, okay,
the OS X version. I don't even know how
yep.
this reflects. I was just going to say, Ryan, if you're going to ask me anything about how it shows up on the computer, I'll be like caught red-handed there because
What you
I'm.
can try really, Krish, is on the latest version of Sequoia on your Mac, there's Image Playground as well. So that only came today, well, to me anyway. So I generated an image, like a race car or something with mountains in the background. I
Oh, actually, you know
open,
what? Let me do
yeah, there
this.
we
Let
go.
me.
Yeah, yeah. If you
Can
open
you
that,
see this?
yes, I can. If you go
Uh,
to Edit
okay,
at the
I
top of the
go
menu
to.
bar,
Okay.
and you go, oh, hang on, that's interesting. Click on the image, and then try edit again. There you go, copy subject.
Okay, copy subject
Now paste that into an email, a note, or just paste it somewhere else,
on my
and you'll
messages,
see
for
what it
instance,
pulls
right?
out. Might just be adjustable. It's remove the background,
Ah.
and I think it's
Oh,
the way it's done it. It's kind of layered the images, so you can, instead of sort of going to another tool to remove background or using cleanup or whatever,
let
it
me
allows you to
share.
copy subject. Yeah.
Oh wow! Okay, I see this here. You're saying it got it
So
almost like the other feature that they have, right, where you can get rid of things like
the
I don't know what
cleanup.
it's called, the cleanup, exactly, right? So here you're able to copy the subject. Okay, that's a nice, cool thing to
That's
know.
pretty cool because
Okay.
it's almost. It also is a nice play on it, right? Rather than remove background, it's copy subject, which is ultimately what you're trying to do when you remove background. You're only
Eh,
interested in the subject, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, right. And now let
Yeah.
me actually close this and open this back here. Now you see my phone, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so now this is an example of, you said you hadn't played with a non-subject, a non-human,
Yeah.
this is kind of how it looks. And it's funny you should mention that, because when you were talking about this yesterday in the house, I was mentioning that the thing is, if you take a human, a person, right, or an animal,
Hmm.
or something like that, it in my opinion, it could be personal opinion, but to me it resonated more because this is not a stock image, right? This is Christian the way Apple's image playground visualizing Krish in this particular app. Whereas when I
Yeah.
took this, it did a few things, sure, but I cannot tell if Ryan created this or Krish created it, because there is
Ah.
not necessarily a personal touch to this, because this doesn't look like I took a noodle and this is the version it created. So
All
it's
right.
not,
Okay.
yeah, it has nothing to do with the Japanese noodle, for instance, right?
Got it. Yeah.
So it's still, you could say that it's nice, and in its own ways, maybe there is value, or maybe I'm not the most creative soul on planet Earth, so I'm not doing it
Hmm.
well. But I have a feeling it might resonate better with characters, with people,
Yeah.
with animals, your dog, your cat, things that
Sure.
mean something to you more personally.
Hmm.
Maybe a bowl of noodle, sure, it's going to appease, satiate your appetite. But
Yeah.
I don't know if you feel emotional about it. And I could be wrong. I could be wrong, because if you're
I
a
agree
chef,
with
maybe
you.
you feel emotional about it, right? But in
Yeah.
general,
I think you're right. I think the more I think about it as well, like, like people who, again, maybe uh, might be a bit polarizing, but if I'm taking a photo of something I am eating, I want you to see it the way I've taken the photo, because it looks amazing. I don't want a fun version of it. I don't want a cartoony version of it. I want you to see that fat sliding off that steak and glistening and whatever, right? I don't want a fake version of it, because whereas with my face, I'm happy to, because you either know who I am, and then it's fun, or you don't know who I am and I've got a bit of privacy. In both cases, it's okay that it's cartoony.
makes sense, right? And then,
Yeah.
I was going to take the example where we were somebody eating. It doesn't actually work there, because I took with a photo of, yeah, see, it's got
Your
fingers.
photo really is making me too hungry, man, Krish. Seriously. It's all
you
the
know
kind of food I like. So
Oh, lovely. So this one is noodles with fingers, right? But see, it didn't even like the image. So
ah,
it doesn't even process that image. But if I took cake here, maybe this pastry might actually work.
let's
Yeah,
see. Fair enough. Yeah,
it comes up with
yeah.
a version. But the thing I was telling earlier, right? Now,
Mm,
this is not personal, right? This could be a stock image, right? It is
yeah,
not me having that. So that personal touch goes missing in my, and then
very true.
plus there's no way to merge a couple of things. Like if I want to take a raw, it created an image of me, right? Like in one of the previous examples, it took, say, take people. I'm just going to go with, okay, here. Now, if I wanted to merge something in here, there's no way to do it, right? So
Yeah.
this can obviously get a whole lot more powerful. I want to take a different image, maybe a real one that's not actually AI generated, and I want to add to this. But of course, we
Hmm.
can take this outside, go to Canva,
Sure.
go to Apple Preview, and edit this, which is the next set of things that I want to kind of explore and figure out. But I
Yeah.
think one more time, right? This certainly has captured the essence, right? This is my wife's photo, and I can see the facial structure being captured.
Mm,
It's not lost in translation at all, right?
yeah.
Completely not lost in translation. I want to actually, let's go to illustration too, because we've not done
Yeah.
illustration. So, oh wait, hang on. So that's
So like a pop
illustration.
art kind of. Yeah.
I show it. That's okay. Let me maybe pick a different photo to see if it does a slightly funnier, quirkier job. So let me go to, okay, let me go here. Yeah, my initial reaction,
Yeah.
I was thinking about what you mentioned, like in London and New York City, where the artists are drawing.
Caricatures. Yeah.
That was a lot more fun to me. I've never created. You see all my saved images from yesterday. There's
Hmm.
not a single one of them that actually uses an illustration. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on
It's
illustrations?
interesting that I think for kind of the reasons I mean I've switched from using an actual photo of my face on sort of my WhatsApp image to then using an avatar. The WhatsApp avatar is horrendous, but using kind of something like this, and I keep going back and forth, back and forth. For something like that, I don't think I would ever use an illustration. It's a bit too far out there. It's too far towards the yeah. It's on. I think the animation that bit kind of captures the reality just enough. I've lost your phone, by the way, Chris. Just so
Yep,
you know.
yep. I think it just slapped my machine. Okay. Do you see it
The
now?
not yet. Still just the both of us.
Okay, wait. Let me. I think since it slept, I have to go back
Yeah.
and share my
Just
screen.
time checkers. I think I'll give it another 10 minutes or so, and then I'm happy to
Yep.
kind of join this again whenever you need. But I think for
Y-
tonight, just
Oh yeah,
got
we
to
can
get
do
ahead.
10 minutes, right? Okay,
Sure.
cool, awesome. So let me. So this one, I'm not impressed. Your reactions?
I'm not impressed either. At the same time, I have a feeling just from the last half an hour so we've been speaking that both of us probably may not be the target demographic of that thing. I can imagine
Ah,
a teenager going, "Well, that's pretty fun," or a kid, or starting touching on something slightly further out, which is I know they've also got Image Playground's also available. I don't know how much of it is, but you can also integrate to it via the APIs. And if there was a app that you could build that allowed a
oh
kid to
wow.
speak to it and create a storybook, right?
You know what?
Mommy and Daddy are going down the road, and here's a story. That illustrations would be significantly more attractive in a children's book or digital book.
That's very interesting. I had no idea. Thanks for mentioning because
Yeah,
one of the products we do is B2B product is APIs, and we'll talk about it more as we get to know each other better.
yeah,
So we publish APIs like on AWS
right.
Marketplace for other businesses to consume. So when you mention API, my eyes are like
Yeah,
they just lit up there. Uh, so back to this one. So just I'm sharing. Do you see my phone again,
I
Brian?
see that something I'm not seeing that donut on it and choose a person.
Yeah, so this is this button the
Ah,
here.
okay, yeah.
So it has the previous. I still haven't gotten a sense of what it. So as you add the faces, it adds faces here.
What's it do? Yeah.
I don't know where it's picking.
What's it trying to
So
do?
these are
The person,
different people. I'm not. So this one is
the
again. These are
person or
faces.
appearance you select will be the starting point for your new image.
So this is maybe
Hmm.
stock images, possibly. Right? It has
Yeah,
nothing to do with me necessarily.
that's a bit odd, that one, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So that one
Well,
is
unless I
probably.
suppose maybe you, in case you're trying to come up with a stock image, not something of someone you know about. Maybe.
Ah, possible, right? Because
Yeah.
that's and then and in terms of the stability of the app, it only crashed once for me so
Okay.
far, right? So I think
Yeah.
even in the beta version, it's fairly like stable. So this is
Yeah.
yeah. I think where it fell flat for some reason, my mom, it completely I don't know what it is.
It's
Yeah.
different, is it?
Yeah, I tried several different images of my mom.
Yeah.
You know what? Oh, I take it back.
Is it getting better?
Oh, it certainly is getting better.
You see this one, the close up again is always the one that's a bit better.
Wow, so this actually did get better. Oh, this is
Interesting, huh?
interesting. Oh, this is the best it's gotten.
I wonder what it's doing in the background, whether it's going through your album looking for her name, because you've clearly tagged her as a person in your album,
So
and
I
it's
picked,
learning
yeah,
from.
it's learning, right?
Yeah.
Oh, so I picked. This is a bit strange. There could be a bug here because the version of my mom that I actually liked was this version. Now
Yeah.
I want to take this version and add something more. I said, you know what, add a city to that version. But when I add a city, it actually changed my
That's what I
mom. It's
mean.
not.
That's
It's
really
not.
annoying when it
Yeah.
does that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that doesn't. Okay, I'm just going to end up saving this. Okay, so I think we have another 7 minutes. So this is we gone through a
Yeah.
bunch of features here. We played with
Yeah.
it, and then the thing I want to say is you can what you can do is you can click this. You can go save image, and then you can go save image, and then you can go to images here, and then you can do whatever you want to do with these images.
Yeah.
Right? Send
Yeah.
it on WhatsApp. I'm going to go to WhatsApp. Send it to my mom. And this is actually it's not bad at all. It's
Yeah.
remarkable. Yeah. uh, uh, and I think that's I shared it. What else have I done with it so far? I shared with my mom on WhatsApp, had a conversation about it, and then I showed it to her. So it's 3 generations now, right? My son used it yesterday,
Uh-huh.
I used it, and I shared it
Yeah.
with mom. A lot of the features she's like, yeah, okay, or it doesn't matter to her, right? She lives in India.
Mm-hmm.
This one she was very excited about. Actually, you know
Mm-hmm.
what? She went to show it to my father and did a number of things of that
It's
nature, right?
interesting, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah.
So the last few minutes, I'm going to stop share so we can come back and see each other. I can see you
Yeah.
after 1 hour for the next 5 minutes. So
Yeah.
perfect. So this is awesome. Let's sort of we have 5 minutes.
Sure.
Uh, I have a couple of questions unrelated to the Image Playground that I'm going to ask you. But before I did that, any any closing comments on the app, the playground
On
that we
the
haven't
app,
covered so far?
I think it is a very fun, playful thing. I think when I mentioned earlier on about why would someone use this, I meant it more in terms of what are they up? There's something here that they are seeding the community with Apple because they have a bigger game plan. And the reason I say this, I don't know what it is. I'm not predicting what it is, but the reason I say this is in the last sort of what feels like the last 7-8 years, it feels like a lot of their apps, their features, their hardware upgrades are very focused on faces. A stronger front camera before they upgraded the back camera. Profile the portrait ability to take on the front before it got better on the back. And then they did that for a while, and then boom, Face ID popped up, and guess what? It was pretty remarkable, pretty fast, right? So again, now I feel like there's something here, which is if you look at the image playground, we've both shared the same view, which is the representation of faces are significantly better than all the other things. I don't think that's by accident. There's a reason they want people to share avatars of their face versus their dog, their cats, the scenery, a mountain, a table.
I couldn't agree
Yeah.
any more with what you're summarizing. You said it beautifully. And I think I'll give an example which may or may not be a great analogy, right? You
Mm,
know, when people go to Florida and go to these theme parks and sea worlds and whatnot, right? I'm
mm,
not a great tourist personally.
mm,
I don't appreciate something just because I spend the money to travel, but I have
mm,
friends and family who would
mm.
appreciate the place, nothing wrong, just because they've spent the time and energy getting there. So you've got to react to Niagara Falls
Sure.
like, oh my God, this is the world's most beautiful falls, not the one in Zimbabwe, because you know
Yes,
what? I took the
I'm
time and
here.
I'm here, so I have to appreciate it, right? I'm not one
Yeah.
of those people.
Yeah.
So I see a
Yeah.
dolphin, I see the next one, I'm like, yeah, I get the idea, and maybe I don't know how to appreciate dolphins, and I'm like, you know what, that's good. I'm not spending
Sure.
more than 3 minutes, right? But that
Yeah.
doesn't mean that's the right or wrong thing to do.
Yeah.
But you know, there are people who take 200 photos of the dolphin, and then you don't want to visit people once they're back from SeaWorld in Florida because you're now subject to watching 300
300
photos of the
reasons.
dolphins,
Oh,
and you're supposed to react to the dolphins. And I'm like, you know what?
yeah.
I want to see people, right?
Yeah.
So I always tell people, you know, if you take a photo, if there's a human, you know, or your dog or your cat in there, maybe that makes a difference. I'm not an animal person, so I'm
Sure.
just going to stick with people.
Yeah.
I think it makes a difference. It's Ryan in that photo. But if
Mm-hmm.
Ryan goes to Florida and has 1,000 photos of the dolphin, look at it a day, I don't know, 10 years down
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
road, I'm not sure if you're going to go back and look at it and say, oh, I actually missed that dolphin that I saw for like three
That's a good
seconds,
point, right?
right?
Because ultimately, what you want to remember from that memory is I saw a dolphin, not I saw 300 angles off this dolphin.
And plus, you know, Ryan, you said it, the memory, just to restate what you
Yeah.
said, the memory should be that you saw a dolphin, meaning you've got to be in the frame. Your wife has got to be in the frame.
Very good
It
points.
it cannot be that somebody saw a dolphin. There is a
And I,
dolphin. I don't even know if I saw the dolphin or somebody else saw the dolphin
it's
better
not
than
about the
I did,
dolphin
right?
existing, right? It's that
Yeah,
I saw
exactly.
the dolphin.
It's you saw the dolphin, right?
Yeah.
So, and I know we have 2 minutes. I'm going to ask you a
Yeah.
completely unrelated question
Sure.
to, as we call, before I call it wraps. I'm going to have to say thank you so much. I want to
Oh,
talk
you
about
too.
this. I want to talk about this, and the more we were strangers. I feel like I know you a lot more
Krish, I
in the
feel like
one.
we could just
Yeah,
talk shop about this forever, man.
in the 1 hour, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was nice to have a conversation with somebody spontaneously with no prep work, and it's
Mm.
perfect. So I'm going to have to call you back to a product marketing, product management related podcast. But before I end this and ask the question, I'm going to say one more. You know, thanks to Ryan. Ryan Soosayraj is a product management leader, folks. Definitely, we're going to include Ryan. We'll include the links to your profile. If there's any other links you want for us to
Sure.
include, definitely let us know. We can include that as well. This is phenomenal. Thank you for the conversation. But before I let you go, the question to you that I ask of all my guests is, what is your most favorite food?
My most favorite food. I'm originally from Malaysia. My mom is her lineage is from Sri Lanka, which you might have seen. And my dad is from the south of India, and they have mushed their cookings together. And there's this thing my mom makes. It's weirdly, she calls it not a roast chicken. She's called it a chicken roast. I have no idea why it's called that. All it is a heck of a lot of cinnamon sticks. It's a heck of a lot of star anise, chicken on the bone, and a huge amount of dried chilies. And it's just put on low heat for an extremely long amount of time. Uh, and that, and you obviously have to have it with white rice because I wouldn't have Asian heritage if I didn't say that. And that's it. And it is eating that burnt, super hot dried chili uh, till you know it's not a good idea because you know in a couple of hours it's not a good idea. But that's it.
What is it? What is it called? It sounds
She literally just calls it chicken roast because that's what her mom-in-law who taught her called it that.
Oh, like
And
what in like for instance, like I'm guessing is your native tongue Tamil?
yeah, I understand it more than I speak it, but absolutely,
Okay, I
yeah.
was just wondering whether you know if she calls it in Tamil or does she call it in English?
No, she calls it in English, and I don't think it is like derived from a Tamilan dish or Sri Lankan dish. I think it is just something that grandma at some point concocted in the house,
Wow,
and it's been
beautiful.
passed on, and it's so simple. And living abroad as well, um, you don't get to eat mom's food all the time, but
You know,
knowing,
what
and
are
this
the
is
odds,
something,
right?
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, Ryan, this is awesome. I know. Do you have like 3 more minutes?
I do,
Okay,
yeah,
because I want to let you go, but I want to say this. You know, it's amazing. It's beautiful because I posted this on LinkedIn. You happen to see it coincidentally. We
yeah,
are not connected yet, but I'll send you a request obviously right after the call.
yeah.
And we happen to speak the same language, which
It's
is
weird, isn't
or
it?
at least you said you understand even if you
Yeah.
don't speak it. And one more thing you said that adds another layer of commonality in a strangely too many things in common way. You said you're from Malaysia.
Yeah,
My wife is from Malaysia.
you're joking.
No, I'm serious. She's from which part of Malaysia are you from?
Kuala Lumpur from the capital from PJ. Yeah.
She's from Seremban, like 30
Right?
30
Yeah, your
kilometers from.
family this.
Sure. Yeah, she's born and raised in like in Malaysia.
Krish, I tell you this, right? A variety of different things, right? I'm 46 this year, so I think you said you're in your 40s, right? I think. So,
I mean, do I look 21 or maybe
uh,
22? You should say.
you want to be a 20-year-old Brad Pitt. That's what you should put into
Oh
Image
yeah,
Playground and see
okay.
what
But
comes
you
out.
got it right. You got it right. Keep going. Keep going.
I think it's funny. I think the later stage of my life, I've started to kind of just really genuinely love and enjoy the sort of serendipity of things, right? It happens for the good and the bad sometimes, but just the way today happened, right? Like there's a whole bunch of stuff that's happened today. Like my wife's gone abroad for work, and there's a whole bunch of craziness that happened. Solo parent this evening is in complete meltdown. Managed to get it settled. Put them in front of screens, and I said, "I'm going to sit in front of the computer." I had nothing to do. It was just this is my like weirdly, this is quite sad, but it's my happy place sitting in front of my screen. I don't know what I'm going to do, but it's the window to the world, right? Fired up LinkedIn, saw that first thing, and I thought, hey, sure, right? And look at what's happened, right?
Oh, it's
Um,
amazing. Yeah, it's.
and I once, this kind of tying back to my mom as well, she told me something many years ago. She says it's her quote. It's not. It's probably from Reader's Digest or something. But she always said, the beauty of life happens when you're busy making other plans.
Oh my God, it's lovely.
Great,
It
right?
is so. I
It's
love
just,
quotes and I have a number of quotes in my office room, like all kinds of quotes. And I'll share another quote by Henry Thoreau.
okay,
You may have known this already, but the one of my favorite quotes is the price of anything. I'm paraphrasing his quote, by the
sure,
way, so please, folks, take it with a
yeah,
grain of salt. The price of anything is the amount of life you exchange for it. It's
wow,
just beautiful.
huh,
It is one of the most important quotes because part of what we do is manage services, right? And people say, hey, Krish, this is a lengthy project. I'm like, you know what? We
it's the
don't live
value to you.
indefinitely. Lengthy project doesn't mean anything to me. When
Mm-hmm.
I do something, am I stoked about it, right?
Yeah,
Am I happy about it? Am I thrilled about it? And as you get a little bit older, your priorities change, right? And to each their own, but still, it's what resonates with you, what means a
correct.
lot to you. How much do you enjoy what you do? Like I say, coding is an art. It's because I
Mm,
don't have any artistic skills of any kind. So you've got to now rely on what you do know to some extent
sure.
and treat it like art because it truly is art. Like
Yeah.
you talked about the food and you explained that food, even though I'm vegetarian, I can still imagine that
It's an
dish, right?
emotional experience, man.
Yeah,
Food.
I'm just
It
imagining
is.
the dish without the chicken, and your
Yeah.
mom's going to say chicken roast without the chicken. That makes no sense, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But that is like me going to a Chinese place in DC, and we love Chinese food, my wife and I.
Yeah.
And coming from Malaysia, you probably
Yeah.
there's lovely Chinese food, right?
Yeah.
So we go to DC and we take a dish. We like, hey, no, we take like a beef Singapore rice noodle or one of those things, right?
We tell them to
And
leave
then
the
I,
beef out.
I never look at a menu when I order food. I'm like,
Okay.
you know what? No beef, no chicken, no eggs. Uh, the Singapore curry powder that it goes into the Singapore rice
Yeah.
noodles. I don't want too much of the curry powder, so
Yeah.
go easy on the curry powder. Light oil, stir fried gently,
Mm.
and they're like, "This is a new dish, right?" The funny thing is, the beauty is Chinese restaurants are completely all right. They have no problem. So I get a
Yeah.
customized dish that is almost custom made for me, right?
Yeah.
I try this in an Indian restaurant in
No, no,
America.
no, no, no.
Forget it, right? They're like,
Well, it's also because you're Indian, right? So they're
yeah,
going to look
yeah.
at you. How dare you, right? How dare you, right?
And then
It's yeah,
and it makes them uncomfortable because you know what, Krish knows too much about this food. I'm going to give him something and it's not going to look right. It's
yeah.
like, you know, there's a restaurant in New York, you know, which is a different story. You know, I can keep talking, but by the way, I
Mm.
have to respect. You know what, I'm going to end in like 60 seconds from now.
No
So,
worries. Keep going. Yeah, it's fine.
you know, Ryan, one more time, thank you so much. The next time we call, we know we're going to have an indefinite window because one of my recent podcasts was with two founders in New York City and these were Long Island, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It's supposed to be a 1 hour session. So it was the
Mm-hmm.
CEO and the CTO, right? We got on the call, we didn't know each other. End of the hour, it was going nicely, and I was like, "Hey, you want to wrap up or should we go?"
Yeah.
They're like, "You know what? This is too good. Let's keep going."
Keep chatting.
You're not going to believe how long that podcast was. And I'm not even making this up because I'll
Tell
send you
me.
the link to that podcast. It was the lengthiest I believe I've recorded one. It was 3 hours and 15 minutes. 3 hours and 15 minutes.
Amazing,
And
man. Amazing.
finally, it was like, and this was not the only time we've done a 3 hour podcast because we were like, you know what? This is just nice and exciting. And, you know, I
Gives
know
you
that
energy, right? Gives you energy.
if I
Yeah.
caught you in the middle of the day when your wife was not traveling and
Yeah.
you don't have to take care of kids, I feel like I wouldn't have let you go. And then there are times, Ryan, people are like, Krish, you know, I really have to go. Can I love to talk, but I would
Yeah.
love, you know, this is even in a meeting, right? Because
Yeah.
I'm a very quiet person, as you can tell. I'm a very, very quiet person and a man of few words.
So a
Brevity is
quiet
my forte.
21-year-old Brad Pitt. Got it.
Yep.
You got the
You're
three
gonna tell your wife,
parameters.
you're going to tell your wife, add a chat with a quiet 21-year-old Brad
Brad
Pitt,
Pitt.
and then you turn the video on. She's like, "Are you all right, Ryan? Are you all right?" And you're going to be like, "No, no, please don't be like, don't say, please don't." But this is
Krish,
awesome.
I have to say to you as well before we go. Thanks for the opportunity. I think it was good. Also, you hit the nail on the head, right? I love my craft of product, and I think of any product person you've ever spoken to, they're lying if they say to you they didn't fall into the craft. Everyone accidentally becomes a product person, right? No one kind of charts that path. But I'm very fortunate that I landed into it, so I can talk about that at all lengths. But also, I just like connecting with people, and you within like a minute of you getting on the thing, I knew that this is going to be an easy conversation. It's easy. You kind of know, and the older you get, you know when you go, oh, jeez, this guy, right? You kind of have a smell for someone. This was always going to be an easy chat. So I look forward to kind of speaking with you more, podcast or not. I think it'll be good to just
Oh,
have a,
no, I would love
yeah.
it, you know. I know I have to let you go, but I have to, since you said something, I have to end with something else. I'm so sorry.
Okay,
You know, you
I'm
said,
stop. This is such a typical Indian thing.
yeah, it's like getting out of the house, right? You saying bye bye and you go up to the door and then you go
The
to the
Stations of
car.
the Cross.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're never ending that. So
yeah.
you mentioned when you see some people, you feel like you get a vibe, for good or for worse. It's like me going to the poker table. You know, I
Mm.
would have otherwise gone to play poker. You
Hmm.
probably saved me $1,000, I promise you, because I would have just gone there and lost two stupid hands and come back home. You go to the poker table, you sit down, and you feel like, I don't feel like I'm going to win this table. I have to get to a different table,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah.
there are times you feel like you're going to win a table, and I'll share that very interesting story with you the next time we get on a call.
Okay.
It was an amazing story, but the ending was not to my liking, unfortunately. But the whole story,
Mm.
I think, was very beautifully played by the other player who got the better of me, but he
Okay.
was good in his art, right? He was good
Right.
in what he was
And you've
doing.
got to admire it, right?
Yeah, I couldn't. I was just speechless, right? I was just
Mm.
speechless. So one more time, Ryan, this was phenomenal. So I cannot wait to, you know, give it to my team to publish the podcast. It's going to be on Apple, Spotify,
Super.
our Substack pages and whatnot. And we'll talk more. I promise you, right? I'm going to hit you
Looking
up.
forward to it,
Uh,
Krish.
and folks, one more time, thanks to Ryan Soosayraj for, you know, taking time of his late evenings in England, in London, to chat about something that not directly related to our line of business in that sense, right? You know, you're a product leader
Hmm.
and do something, but this was like, we want to talk about the Image Playground app, and I feel like people are going to, you know, enjoy this product. So thanks a lot, Ryan. You have a wonderful evening and a great week, and you know, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays for the week ahead. Yeah.
Thank you, Krish, and you too as well. Have a good night,
And
man.
before I'm
Yeah?
going to stop record, but just wait for a couple of seconds because it's just going to upload. Yeah, just wait for a couple of seconds. Yep.
Oh, sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Is that what that thing is?